Hey everybody, it's Brooke with the Buttered Home and welcome to my messy kitchen. You will not want to miss this recipe today. Today we're going to be showing you how to make the viral, quick and easy lasagna soup. So stay tuned. In a large skillet, we're going to turn our heat on over medium-high and add in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now I'm using olive oil in this because this is a slow cook method. Even though we're using medium to high heat here, the olive oil still should not smoke because it's not going to be for a prolonged amount of time. Now the trick to sauteing any kind of vegetables is to heat the oil first. So we're going to heat our oil just until it's nice and warm, and then we'll add in a ½ cup of chopped onions or diced onions. I'm using red onion, but you can use whatever onion that you like. All right, so our oil is hot. So I'm going to add in the onions and just cook them for a few minutes, just until they are soft. Okay, now that our onions are nice and soft, we just want to take our 1 pound of lean ground beef and add it right in. And I like breaking mine up just a little bit when I add it in. It kind of helps get things going and moving. Now we add in about a teaspoon of minced garlic, about a ½ teaspoon of salt, and a ¼ teaspoon of pepper. All right, now that we've got our ground beef all nice and browned, I'm going to add it right into the bottom of the pot or the liner of our crock pot. Now I'm using a 93% lean ground beef, so I did not drain it because we want the flavor from the onions that cooked off. That's really the only liquid that's left in there. But if you kind of have a thing about that, feel free to drain it and before you add it in to your crock pot liner. Either way is fine. So now we're going to add in our soup components. We're going to add in a 28-ounce can of tomato puree or crushed tomatoes. And you can find some really good varieties or use your own that you've canned yourself. Just make sure whenever you're looking at your ingredients on your can that it's mostly just water and tomatoes. Nothing you can't pronounce, in other words. And now we want to add in 1 undrained can of diced tomatoes, liquid and all. Same thing here. The canned stuff is not terrible when it comes to tomatoes. Most are cooked fresh and flashed to go into the canning process and are perfectly safe. Just any type of canned anything. If it has an ingredient that you can't pronounce or you can't easily Google and see that it won't hurt you, you probably don't need to use it. All right, and now we have tomato paste. We want to add in about a ¼ cup of that. And I'm going to give that a good mix so that it can break up a little in with everything else. Now to this we want to add in 1 to 2 cups of chicken broth just to begin with. So that's about a cup and a half. And I'm going to get it mixed in. And you want it thinned, but you don't want it too terribly thin because as all these tomatoes and tomato puree starts to cook down, it is going to get a little more liquefied. So we're going to add in probably another ½ cup. And we'll start out with about 2 cups of chicken broth. The great thing about this is as it cooks, if you need to thin it, you can just add in more chicken broth because it's relatively slow cook process and works really well. Now to season this, we want to add in about a teaspoon, a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of my favorite Italian seasonings, and I forgot one, and that's going to be oregano, basil, and crushed rosemary. The rosemary, we're going to use about a half a teaspoon of it just because it's really strong. Dried rosemary is very, very strong. So about a half a teaspoon of that, and then about a half a teaspoon of the dried basil. A whole teaspoon, I'm sorry if I misspoke. And a whole teaspoon of oregano, all dried. We're going to get those mixed in. Now this one would be an easy one to do on top of the stove, but the crock pot just allows you to let it cook while you're doing other things. While everything is already cooked as far as our protein goes, the great thing about this lasagna soup is that you really want that slow cooked all day Italian flavor, and we're going to get that, and we're going to let our crock pot do all of the work for us. So now I will add this to my slow cooker sleeve and or my crock pot, put the lid on, and we'll cook it on either high for 3 hours or low for 6. Now, it's lasagna soup, so don't think we're finished because we're not finished yet. But we'll be back and we'll show you the final steps. So stay with us. Okay, now we're going to mix up our garnish, our real fancy garnish for our lasagna soup. And what better thing to do that with than with cheese, and that's ricotta cheese and mozzarella cheese. So I have an 8-ounce container of ricotta that I'm just going to put completely in with 1 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese. Now I like to mix these two things together before I add my seasonings, just so that I can get that drier cheese pressed into the wetter cheese. That allows for the seasoning to kind of permeate through everything once we do a little pre-mix here, because you got 2 different textures going on. Okay, so now that we've got that pre-mixed and our mozzarella is incorporated in with ricotta, we're going to add in about 2 tablespoons of dried basil. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really not, because this is a lot. We got pretty much 2 cups worth of cheeses here, and the best way to get flavor in there is just to add it and add a good bit. Plus, we like the flecks of color in this, and this is something that you can use for more than just that lasagna soup. So this is a nice little cheese condiment just to have on its own, and you could add in some other really nice things and eat this just like a dip. Let's see, I'm coming up with other recipes while I'm making this one. How about that? Okay, so now I'm just going to cover this and refrigerate it, and we'll have it ready to serve whenever we serve our soup. Okay, now that we have cooked ours for 3 hours on high, I've got anywhere from 8 to 10 or 8 to 12 of these regular lasagna noodles, and I'm just going to break them into about 1-inch pieces and put them in. And I don't do this ahead of time because I want to make sure that I have just the right amount of noodles in here. So I'll do probably about half of them and get them all broken up. Now, Big D likes lots of noodles in here. All right, so that's And you can do them all different sizes, but that's about half. So now I'm gonna mix those in and just see what that looks like. And yeah, we're gonna do some more. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, if you do like lots of noodles in here, we're gonna cook these on high for 20 minutes back in the crock pot. And if it turns out that it is too thick, remember how I mentioned before, we can just add some chicken stock back in. And this is gonna be really hot at the time, so the chicken stock, it's at room temperature. It won't cool it off, in other words. All right, so now I'm gonna carefully put these back in the crock pot, covered, switch it back on high, and just allow that to cook for about 20 more minutes, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. Everything is ready. I got that delicious ricotta mixture out, and I have served up some in a bowl and let it cool just a bit so that I wouldn't just burn the inside of my mouth. But let's take a look at it. It's just absolutely fabulous. So you can see our noodles, they cooked up all nice and tender, and then I have just spooned some out. So now we just want to take a dollop, just a dollop, however big, however small you want it. And then we serve it right on top of our delicious lasagna soup. And if you give it time to melt, it can kind of go down in there, and it's fabulous. But I can't wait. So we're gonna get a bite with that delicious garnish and give it a taste. Now that's just fantastic. The noodles are perfect. They're not soggy. They're not just falling apart. They're still a little al dente. So that 20-minute cook time on high was perfect for them. Y'all, this recipe, it could not be easier, and it is the busy cook's dream, as are all crock pot recipes. That's one of the reasons why this has been my favorite for years, and it will continue to be probably as long as I live, because you can have really tasty, delicious meals and be free to do other things while it's doing all the heavy lifting cooking for you. This recipe, like all of our others, can be found over at thebutteredhome.com. We would love for you to go over there and give us a visit. It means a lot to me. I put a lot of work into that website to give you a free printable recipe card, plus links to all of our videos, which you can also find over at YouTube. So if you're not subscribed to our channel on YouTube, head over there now and search for The Buttered Home. And when you find us, hit that subscribe button and ding the bell so that you can be notified when we drop new videos like this one. Also, make sure you're following us on all of our social platforms. We have a really good time. You never know, we're going to pop in with a tip or a trick or just being messy and silly. You don't want to miss those days, trust me. We hope that you'll try this recipe and love it as much as we do. And from all of us here at The Buttered Home, we sure love y'all. Bye.